Hi everyone, I'm Julia and this is Julia at Home. Today I'm going to be sharing the history curriculum that I put together for our homeschool kindergarten this year. We have really been enjoying it and I hope you will enjoy seeing what we've been doing. Before I continue, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. I would really appreciate it and that way you won't miss any new content. So our history curriculum is built around books, and I will show you all the ones that we are using this year, and if you stay till the end, I will actually be throwing in some bonus books that I have that I'm not actually using for this particular curriculum right now, but I think could be good additions for you. So in short, this is Biographies of Famous Americans. I am calling it American Hero Biographies because when I was thinking about who I wanted to feature, obviously you can't feature everybody, I really wanted to share the stories of people with character and that have done good things moving our country forward. One big caveat is they are not perfect. For example, we did read about George Washington and he had slaves. So I think of this as a good discussion point. Obviously nobody is perfect. People all have flaws. Some of these flaws are very apparent to the children, like George Washington's slaves. Some others might not be discussed at all and we don't have to worry about them. But it's just something to keep in mind moving forward. My criteria was not to find perfect people, but people who did good things to move the United States of America forward. Okay, so this is the stack of books we're going to be reading this year. And we've already read a portion of them. We're not finished yet. I'm going to go through them one by one and I'm going to put the links below so that you can go check them out yourself. So I really wanted to start with Native Americans. The big problem that I had was I wanted to do biographies, right? There's so many good books out there about Native Americans in general, but I wanted biographies to stay within the theme. So here's what I found. Our very first one is Crazy Horse's Vision by Joseph Bruchac. I'm not sure how to say his name. I have so many books by him on Native Americans and I highly recommend him as an author. This one's about Crazy Horse, and I think it's really well done. I was really happy with it, and my daughter enjoyed it as well. So that's our first one. Our second book is Pocahontas. Now, I was trying to find biographies of famous Native Americans, and there's not a lot of options, and I wanted to do Pocahontas, and there are very limited options for especially the younger age group. And a lot of them have things that may not be totally, not that they're not appropriate, but culturally sensitive. This one's not perfect, but I would say it's the best I could find. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be for how old it is. It's by the Dallaires. You might know they have Greek myths, and that's what I knew them from when I was a child. They have mythology books, and they have several biographies, and I do have several in here. They are good storytellers, and most of their books, they alternate between color and black and white photos. And, you know, I found this a good option. So if you have a better one, I think Bruchac did a book that's like Pocahontas and John Smith from both points of view, but it's more for middle grade ages. So I had looked at that, but it wasn't, obviously I need something younger. So this is what I went with for Pocahontas. And then moving ahead a little bit, we did Benjamin Franklin, who is just like a cool person to know about. That, you know, we've listened to some, we've learned about some of the founding fathers, and for some reason, he hasn't come up as much. I know he's a little bit older than the rest of them. But this was a fun one. And this is kind of unique. We're living in Vermont, and Vermont actually requires us to study Vermont history specifically. So this is Anne's story, and she is a Vermont heroine from the time before Vermont was Vermont, when it was being fought over by New Hampshire and New York, and, you know, Indians, actually, you know, Native American people lived here. And she was a pioneer woman. It's a little bit drier and more advanced than the other books we're reading, just a heads up. My daughter and I did enjoy it after we got into it a little ways. We enjoyed learning about her story, but it's a little bit longer, and it's not a picture book. So if you're in Vermont or you have a particular interest in this time period or this area, I would recommend it. Otherwise, you could probably just skip this one. All right, then we did George Washington, and there's several good options for him, actually. This is the one we had. We picked this up when we were at Mount Vernon, actually. It's another Dallaire book. And again, it shows slaves, and it does mention at the end, there's a note about him and freeing his slaves. But again, this was one we had a conversation on because my daughter noted that she looks happy. And so we were able to have a conversation about how people can be in hard situations and not be happy overall, but there can still be moments of happiness within a hard or sorrowful life. So that, again, can lead to interesting conversations. And I do like Dallaire's storytelling. Okay. We had to get another lady in here. So I chose Abigail Adams. She is a really cool lady. And if you don't know much about her, go look her up. I want to now I have on my wish list an adult book about Abigail Adams, so I'm going to read that. We enjoy this Who Was series. I thought they would be too advanced for my kids, but we actually read one on the Taj Mahal last year for our India unit for Asia, and I'll link to that above. But we really enjoyed them, and my son will listen as well. So this is a good series, and I recommend learning about Abigail Adams. And that is actually where we are right now. So now I'm going to show you the books that we're planning on reading, but I haven't done with my kids yet. So the first one we're going to do now is My Name is Truth, The Life of Sojourner Truth. This is just a gorgeous book. I'm really excited about it. It just happens that it's now Black History Month, so it seems an appropriate time to read it. Let me just show you some of the pictures. We're kind of jumping ahead in history, you can see, from more Revolutionary War times to Civil War times. But this one, it's beautiful. I don't know what else to say about it. And then we're going to do Abraham Lincoln. And the book I chose is Abe's Honest Words by Doreen Rappaport. It's on the back. And again, this is beautiful, and it's got quotes by Abraham Lincoln on each page, as well as, telling the story. And I decided to start with Sojourner Truth so we get, I don't know if a feel for is the right word, get introduced to slavery. I mean, it's been mentioned before, obviously, but before we go into Abraham Lincoln and how he felt about slavery and the whole Civil War. So, Abraham Lincoln. Now we're going to jump forward a little bit again. And this is Elizabeth Leads the Way, about Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the right to vote. I have mentioned to my daughter before that women couldn't always vote and do the things we can today. And it's such an abstract concept to her that I'm really curious what she's going to think of this. But this was recommended to me, so I'm, again, looking forward to reading that. This is one I found we were at a national park, and we like hiking, and my daughter loves wild animals, but she's also supportive of, ethical hunting. So I thought Teddy Roosevelt would just be a good person for her to get to know and to cover, and since we had this one, we're going to do Teddy Roosevelt with this one. These aren't usually the type of books I would do during school time, but it just happened that we found it, and there's animals. So I'm going with this one. But you might be able to, if you specifically want to do more on Teddy Roosevelt, it is possible you could find a better one. I didn't do a lot of searching on that one. This is one my father gave me that looked fantastic. It's called Franklin and Eleanor. And she was such a cool lady too, and so I wanted to make sure to include her, and I think this is a good way to include both of them. It's a little long. I think this one's going to take us longer than some of the other ones, but it really goes into detail on their life. And he was president for such a long time. You're going to need a little bit more time too. There's a lot going on. So that'll bring us a little bit into World War II, but focusing again on the people, on FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, and Eleanor. Next, I have Martin's Big Words. It's the same author and series as the one I have for Abraham Lincoln. I apologize for the glare. I think that's a little better. So Martin's Big Words. It's the same format again with quotes and gorgeous images here. So, and again, it goes through his life and what he did. So Martin Luther King. And then we're going into Rosa Parks. This is a cool looking book as well. And then we're jumping forward yet again. We are actually moving to I Dissent, about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because I couldn't resist. So if you haven't seen this book, check it out. It's not just, I mean, the core of the story is about a woman who worked hard to become a Supreme Court justice and one of the most respected and influential women in the country. So that's I Dissent. Now these last two aren't single biographies, so let me show you what I mean. This is She Persisted, and this is more about there's 13 women who changed the world, and it just gives you a quick profile of each of them. That's Nellie Bly. She really pioneered investigative journalism, and she went undercover in a mental institution. Claudette Colvin. She was, is a similar story to Rosa Parks. She didn't give up her seat for a white woman. Sally Ride. So this one we're just going to read through. Oprah Winfrey's in here. Just highlights more famous women. And then the last one is Barack Obama's Of Thee I Sing. And I chose it to close up the curriculum because it goes through kind of the hope of what America is and the people that embody those traits. So America is creative, and this is how I told you that you have your own songs about Billie Holiday. Kind. It's about Jane Addams. Let's see what else. Part of a Family. And it just shows the diversity that makes up America. Of Thee I Sing by Barack Obama. Okay, now I have some bonus books that I pulled off my shelves, and these are not in chronological order right now, but I just wanted to share them with you in case you wanted something to look for in your library in addition, or you want some additional ideas. So this is the story of William Penn, and he was a Quaker who came over and founded Pennsylvania. And I have this one in particular because I have ancestors that actually came over with William Penn. So this was of personal interest to me. This is Eleanor by Barbara Cooney, and this is the story of Eleanor Roosevelt, but when she was a young girl. Turning Pages, this is the story about Sonia Sotomayor, who is another Supreme Court justice. And I might throw this in if we have time, because she's also Hispanic, and I don't really have a lot of, I don't really have a good Hispanic American in here right now. So, yeah, that's Turning Pages. The Case for Loving. I think this is newish. And I got an autographed copy at the bookstore. This is, if you don't know the story, I think there was a movie made about them recently. But it's an interracial couple in Virginia before that was legal. And they ended up suing the state and winning. And it affected not only them, but people across the nation. I think there were 13 different states where interracial marriage was illegal. So And this, again, is a little personal because I have an aunt and uncle who, I think they were together even before the Loving case. It's a great aunt and uncle. And they were directly affected by this. And so that's something fun to talk about with my kids. It's put in a good story format too, because some of these topics are kind of heavy and like hard for kids today to understand why they wouldn't be allowed to get married, but it's good to know our history and that people have been pushing to make us better from the very beginning and are continuing to do so. This is Moses. I chose between this one and the Sojourner Truth. And I was originally going to do both, but I've been running out of time. So I decided to do feature one, and then we will come back and read this one again in other contexts or just to read it for sure. It's about Harriet Tubman. And I think that if you are studying, the time period of the Civil War, these don't have to just be for young kids. Picture books are also great for older kids, through elementary school for sure. And a middle schooler could also read this to themselves and I think get a good feeling of what the runaway slaves and the Underground Railroad were like. Okay. Now these two are not additional people, but additional options. So here's one for Abraham Lincoln. Now this is the Dallaire version. I decided to go with Abe's Big Words. But I wanted to show you this in case you don't have access to that and maybe this is at your library. I think this would be a good option. They are, again, I like their storytelling style. The reason I chose that one over this one is two parts. One, I liked the quotes in it. But also there's, the way it was written, the images. It's from a while ago. I forget exactly when. They're not as racially sensitive as I would like. And the way they depict slavery. I mean, yeah, the kids are crying, but it's not, I don't know. It's not quite how I would want it depicted. So that's why I chose the other one. But I don't think this is a horrible choice. So if this is what your library has, this is what you have access to, I'd go with this. And again, we have this book. The other additional option I have is for Martin Luther King Jr. and it's my Uncle Martin's Words for America. And I really like this book. I believe it's his niece wrote it. And it's about what he did and what he thought. But it's not as much of a biography as the other one, which is why I chose the other one. It kind of just goes through the things that he fought for. But that could be a good supplemental option. I know Martin Luther King Day already passed this year, but this could also be a good option for Martin Luther King Day. And then as I was looking at the books, I realized this series, Martin's Big Words, Abe's Big Words by Doreen Rappaport, has other books in it. So I just wanted to quickly show you here. There is one on Theodore Roosevelt, also Eleanor, Frederick Douglass, JFK, and Helen Keller. And so if you wanted to do any of those people, I just wanted to show you that because I think those would be really good options as well. It is later this evening and the lighting's not great and you can hear my fire in the background, but I just wanted to quickly share, I forgot about some resources that I absolutely love. They are audio stories by Jim Weiss, and he has a bunch of different history ones, so you could look into them. We really like this one on Abraham Lincoln as well as the one on George Washington. My daughter especially loves the George Washington one. I just can't find it right now. It's actually probably in the car because we listen to it more often. But I did not want to leave off without just showing you this and recommending them as part of a great American hero biography history curriculum. So that's our history curriculum for this year. I don't really have any activities or field trips planned in connection with the biographies we're reading. We have gone on some field trips to local places, but next year I'm hoping to do more activities and other things connected with our history units. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. Yeah, I love history and I have been really enjoying watching her learn to love it as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and some of the recommendations. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you think. Like this video and subscribe below, and I will talk to you later.